Yeah, I mean, we talked about, because Ken Shamrock was part of the original UFC cast, essentially.
Kind of.
Yeah.
He came on a little bit afterwards, but,
Maybe, he was what? One of the first 10 UFCs?
Yeah. In the first grouping. Yeah, but he was, because, when he came along, there was like, he stepped it up.
Hold on a second. Let me look up his record real quick.
Because what was he in, UFC? I don't know, like 5 maybe?
Okay, here we go. His first fight was UFC 3.
3, okay. I started to say 3.
He was not at UFC 1.
No, yeah.
But 2 fights later, he was fighting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And after, if you see when Ken Shamrock came in, that was one of the last ones that they were able, like Royce was able to wear the gi.
Yeah, we actually talked about that. He said that when Royce came in with the gi, he was like laughing at him. He was like, what's this guy doing with the gi? Next thing you know, he's getting choked with the gi. Yeah. He's like, what the hell just happened?
Exactly, yeah. It's like, shoot.
Right, and they don't allow gis anymore
exactly,
in UFC.
For that reason.
For that reason,
that was like,
right.
I go in there, and I remember going and shooting on him, and I go to take him down, and he just like spins, and like there was no resistance whatsoever. Where I was struggling or any of that, it was so smooth and easy, but yet I'm like in bad position. I'm like, how did this happen? And then all of a sudden I feel this thing around my neck, and I'm like, okay, because I'm a strong guy, I'll just pull it off. Well, there's nothing to pull off. There's nothing there that I can grab to pull off. And the next thing I know, I'm tapping, and I'm looking up, and I'm going, I just tapped. Like, I'm the champion in Japan. I just tapped. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, how did this happen? And I remember Royce pointing on me, you tapped. You tapped. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, I sure did, didn't I?
Because, I didn't see that one coming. I'm like, how's Royce going to deal with this cat? And it was like, oh, there you go.
Yeah, we talked about how in those early days, like that was Gracie Jujitsu was introduced to the world. With those early UFC fights.
They did it really smart.
Yeah, and it was like, you see this guy like Royce, who's not extremely muscular. He's not huge. He doesn't look like a dangerous guy from the outside looking in, and he went in and killed everybody.
Yes, but let me tell you the truth to this.
Okay.
And if you notice, my instructor, Bill Wallace, was the first color commentator. Now, if you want to look up what he says about it, he had the inside information, and also my surrogate father was also part of that first show with Jim Brown. See, I'm honoring the Gracies by saying that this is very smart of how they did it, but they made sure certain competitors were not involved in that because there were people who were making their living in tough man competitions and what have you, that would have made it really hard on them earlier on, right? I know a lot of people in those first shows, these guys were mom and pop karate guys who really never fought on a real stage. And then they bumped them up to seem like they were really great fighters. And while the real fighters were not really, because you had to go to Gracie's gym to qualify for the show. So they're not going to have one of the killers in those early shows. If you look at what Bill Wallace speaks about, it's not a fix, but they knew who to bring. They already knew the people they were dealing with. That's why you've never heard of these people. You never heard anybody that in those first shows, they were in like point system karate matches. They were not doing any. There's world champion like Thai boxers, WKA. There was a horde of fighters who had real records. You didn't see anybody. The first person that you saw Ken Shamrock, he actually had pancreas.
Yeah,
but you didn't see the Bas Rutens. You didn't see the Benny Urquidez's and all these people who really knew fighting and wrestling and all that type of stuff. but you couldn't keep them back. The first real celebrated fighter was on his decline that they got in there, and I won a lot of money on this. It was Maurice Smith, a person that was from K1, who got into the UFC, fought one of their monsters. It was a Coleman. I believe it was Mark Coleman, or I think it was Mark Coleman. And everybody thought, oh, Mark Coleman was going to kill him. I was like, no. They let a real fighter in there. Maurice had lost several of his matches, and he's on the downside of his career. But I'm like, no. Maurice has thrown short punches for 20 years. So while Maurice was even on his back, he started to damn near knock out Mark Coleman from just this distance because he was a real striker. And he knocked out Mark Coleman and became a UFC heavyweight champion. But I knew this because now they let real fighters in. And for a very long time, you have not seen a jiu-jitsu guy with any championships. Think about, when's the last time you've seen a jiu-jitsu guy with a I'm not hating on jiu-jitsu. I'm admiring the way that they did it, right? Because you sit here now going, wow, they sold this David versus Goliath thing, and they sold it well. Kudos to them. That was the way to do it. If you let one of those killers in there, you wouldn't have the franchise you have now. Because in everybody's mind, jiu-jitsu was the ultimate.
Well, yeah. I mean, Ken Shamrock basically said in our interview, he actually said in our interview that Gracie Jujitsu became the #1 self-defense system in the world.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's the #1, at least I think it is, but it's got to be the #1 in self-defense as far as when people join for something for self-defense.
Yeah.
And so when you think about what they did, you can complain about it as a fighter all you want. Man, they set that up to be able to promote their... Yeah. So?
You agree with that?
Hell, absolutely. And I'm like, me knowing this, I'm going, they did it the smart way.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you had Maurice Smith in the first, it would have been completely different. You just don't do that. If I was, if I was on your side, I'm like, no. You keep. There's been a lot of people I would have been like, keep them off until you establish your brand, and they established their brand in a big way. But I know jiu-jitsu people going to hate on me. Well, I don't give a damn. It's the truth. That's why you're not. You got to have all your skills together. But now you know good and damn well if somebody's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, well, you really got to get your striking and your wrestling together. There's very few pure jiu-jitsu people who run through anybody like that now. Because now it's an equal playing field.
Right, but Gracie Jujitsu and traditional jiu-jitsu are not the same.
No, I did traditional jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's weird to say traditional jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
it's a Japanese word.
Yeah.
I did jiu-jitsu first.
Yeah.
Actually, that was my first style.
Right, but the Gracies kind of created an offshoot of that, which is a bit different. I remember looking this up. It's not the same as jiu-jitsu.
It's not a...
I know it's similar, but it's not the same. There's specific things that the Gracies do.
It's got a vale tudo. It's got more of the aspect of the no-gi thing, but still, those are modified from the traditional jiu-jitsu techniques.
Yeah.
They made it a combative sport. But yeah, it's, again, like I regard jiu-jitsu in the highest regard because that is the one art that has maintained its tradition. And people are not just handed black belts in jiu-jitsu now. And that's the way karate used to be. I don't give a damn how much money you got, how much time. You better really earn that black belt. And right now, you got to earn. Ain't nobody. They're not giving out black belts in jiu-jitsu, even if it takes you 10 years. So that's to me like my most honored art form. So I'm not hating on it, but of course, it is what it is. That is a tool in the whole lexicon of martial arts, and it's been the most widely used self-defense. I think, well, not rightly so, only because in self-defense, you don't have time to choke somebody. You know, you ain't gonna be on the damn ground. And if there's two people, you in trouble. So the top jiu-jitsu people will tell you in a second, this ain't the best thing for self-defense. They'll tell you that.
Okay, if you were to pick the most effective martial art for a street fight.
Wrestling.
I mean, wrestling. I mean, now that I think about it, wrestling saved my life. The whole home invasion situation. Yeah,
it's like
wrestling actually saved my life. Yeah, you're right.
Wrestling and boxing are almost.
Until you get on the floor, boxing doesn't help you.
Yeah. Well, boxing, because you can take care of things. I have to give the edge to boxing, but wrestling is right there.
Yeah,
right there, because the close contact type of thing.
Well, yeah.
I'm not going to say karate. People think I'm going to say karate, but it'll take you a long time to be efficient to use karate first.
No, I mean, listen, I remember that night, which was the most violent incident of my entire life. I knew how to wrestle and this guy did not. And the way I was able to move and maneuver, and I'm not going to go too deep into what happened, but that completely changed the playing field. And I remember when I did what I did, you could tell this guy had no idea what just happened. You know what I'm saying? And the instinct of being on the floor, being able to move around and maneuver and catch someone in certain types of holds, it's like, it's not as instinctive. You have to actually learn how to do it. And although I only did it for a year, my freshman year in high school, I did build up. I had some instincts to it that honestly saved my life that night. So you're right. If you were to pick one martial art, and I've done some karate, I messed around with jujitsu a little bit, I boxed a little bit. Yeah, I would say that wrestling is the most effective thing that I ever learned.
Yeah, I gotta say it's a close second, because if I strike you, it's a fraction of a second, and it could be all done right there if you know how to hit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
but most fights, but even street fights, a lot of times end up on the ground. So I mean, if you don't knock the person out, and now you're on the ground with a wrestler or someone who knows how to wrestle, you're going to be in some trouble.
Yeah, but most people don't know how to block.
Yeah.
You throw a 5-punch combination.
It's a wrap.
Yeah.
You're out. That lights out.
Yeah.
Well, what Ken Shamrock said, which was interesting, because I talked about UFC then and now, he said that back then, UFC was essentially a street fight.
Yeah.
One round, no breaks.
Back then, again, it was very much a street fight. And there were basically no rules. Like we just discussed, where you talk about a guy going in there and there's no eye gouging, there's no biting, no groin shots. And you could go in the fight and watch. I watched this happen to Josan, where the guy punched him in the groin 3 times and he had to quit. And that was illegal. But the other guy still won because Josan couldn't continue.
And I remember I brought up how Dan Severn, who I interviewed, pointed out that eye gouges won't actually get you eliminated.
Yeah, right.
You can gouge someone's eye,
punch somebody in the nuts,
and they'll just give you a point. You can keep on fighting.
Yeah. Bare knuckles. That's why I did Kyokushin, the style I did, because it's something when you can withstand that, your will and your determination can withstand that kind of punishment. And you know how you're tested when you get hit, and can you hit back? That's the different thing. And a lot of people are not going to experience that in their lifetime. So when you know that your will is tested, that's something that's a check mark. You know you can go there. A lot of people are like, I'm big, if it comes down to it, I'll do, okay. But when it really happens, you should. I think everybody should fight. Everybody should get it out your system. Learn if you got the fight or flight scenario with you.
Yeah.
It's good to know who you really are.
Oh,
and get tested. Do that on your own time before it's somebody else's time. You know what I mean? So, it's like a kid. You get your ass whipped at home, so you don't get your ass whipped out in the street. Get it out your system.
Yeah, no, Ken Shamrock's Lion's Den,
Mm-hmm.
that was like the first team in MMA. And, you know, I mean, listen, there was crews before, but that was like the first like gym team that they actually put together. And Joe Rogan talked about how he trained with them.
Right.
And, you know, we talked about this in our interview about how it was so hard to go through the routine
Mm-hmm.
that they prepared you for the actual fight because they basically put you through like a lot worse than what was going to happen in the ring.
Oh yeah, that's the idea, man. Martial arts should put you through more than life puts you through. That's the balance of it. You know, if my will could withstand this, then out in the street, y'all can't do nothing to me.
Yeah.
You know, that's the idea of it.